Welcome to Engineering Influence, a podcast for the American Council of Engineering Companies. Here at ACEC, we are excited and gearing up to do something we've never done before, and that is to take the Engineering Excellence Awards Gala that we all know and love and switch it from an in-person event to a virtual event. And on December 1st at 3 o'clock Eastern, we will be broadcasting the gala live. And we're kind of building off the success that we had with our fall conference, which went virtual, which broke attendance records. And we're hoping to do the same thing with the EEA awards. And of course, this is the Academy Awards of Engineering. And we want to make it special. And the event that we're going to have virtually is going to be special. And we are honoring a number of projects for their innovation and just their excellence in engineering. And I want to take a moment today to look at one project in particular. It's near and dear to my heart as a Northern Virginia resident. And that's a project by WSP, the ABC Weekend Superstructure Replacement. And this is a very special project, and like I said, it's near and dear to my heart because it's close to where I live. And it was a superstructure replacement that happened, as the title kind of suggests, in a weekend, which is really something given our area and what's known as one of the biggest traffic corridors in the country. People don't have a lot of patience, especially to have a major thoroughfare closed. But being able to do this in a weekend is something else. And I want to get into how the project came about and, what made it so successful. So I'm joined by Kelly Guild. She's the WSP Bridge Lead, Gary Runco with VDOT in the Virginia Department of Transportation, and Pooya Azar with Martin's Construction Corporation. He's the Vice President and Director of Operations. So let's start off with Kelly as the Bridge Lead. What made this project so special?
We had an incredible team, which I think is the basis to why this works so well. So I work with WSP. We led the design effort. So we led the structures, the bridge design, civil component, maintenance of traffic, and basically all the traffic coordination. We worked alongside with VDOT, who pretty much, they're our client, oversaw the entire design and construction. And we got very lucky because we got Martin's Construction Corp to be the group that built the project. And they're a great group to work with, very easy to work with, had a lot of very innovative ideas that we pretty much listened to and incorporated. And that's essential when you have a ABC project, accelerated bridge construction, because it takes everyone working together and you have to do it quickly. So you have to be very open-minded, eliminate a lot of the risk from the project if you can, and to guys work successfully.
And Gary, from VDOT's perspective, how did this project come about? Why was this bridge identified as one that needed to be replaced quickly?
Sure. So the bridge actually had hit our list as being structurally deficient. And what that means is that the general condition rating had dropped to a 4. We were having issues with the bridge deck in particular. The deck actually was so deteriorated that it was starting to fall out. Mm-hmm. We had actually placed plywood forms in between the beams to catch the debris. So we knew that we had to do something, and that's what precipitated the project, and we wanted to keep it safe. Now, also the pedestrian movements, as you noted, were not very good in that location. There was actually a sidewalk on one side, and it was actually really on the wrong side. So we needed to improve the pedestrian access in that location at the same time as fixing the superstructure. So that's really what led us to the project.
And now looking back on it, I guess, how did the team come together? Now the award-winning team together to get this project from design to completion.
So WSP actually was our on-call consultant. They had been our on-call consultant for a period, I think, of 5 years, if memory serves me correctly. And they had worked on multiple projects and had done a great job. So we went to them as with the open-end contract and said, we have this project that we think you will excel at. We'd like to kick it your way. It's a great little project. It's not one of these projects that's, a mega project like a cable stayed bridge or a suspension bridge, but nonetheless, it's critical in terms of the traffic in the region. And so we thought they would do a great job, and we were absolutely correct. WSP, after the plans were prepared and VDOT advertised the project, when they handed off the plans, and Martin's, we were fortunate that Martin's was the low bidder. Okay, so it was a low bid contract.
And Kelly, from the design perspective, how long did it take to go from a design on paper to something that was handed over to Martin's Construction Corporation to start getting built?
Well, the design itself probably took, I don't know, I'm trying to remember, about 8 months, maybe 9 months, just to do the design of these pre-constructed composite units. And then we really had to kind of envision how it was going to be built. And as a designer, we didn't really have the specialties that a contractor would have. So, we called a bunch of different companies, crane companies, just to see, just the capacities of cranes and how many cranes you would need, and tried to really come up with a great, system that was feasible. And then it went out for bid, and we got very lucky. Martin's was awarded, and they're great to work with. We worked with them on other projects as well, and they're very innovative. So they definitely helped just make everything come together and work very well.
We talk a lot about the relationship between the engineer and the builder, and how it is important to have a really good team put together. And my understanding is that this team worked out fantastically. Pooya, from your side of the world, when you were brought onto the project, what perspective did you bring? What experience or innovative thought process did you bring to bear to make this project happen so quickly?
Sure. So, as Gary mentioned, this was a low bid project, so it wasn't a qualified bid where our previous qualifications and expertise and experience were really being evaluated for the award. But what we performed quite a number of projects for VDOT, and we have a long-standing 25-year or so relationship with various folks in the Northern Virginia district of VDOT, and there is a sense of trust from both sides that is very helpful. That really the goal is to get the job done right, and perform well. And we have also, as Kelly mentioned, done a number of projects with WSP through VDOT, none directly, but I think that the same sense of trust was also established previously there, so that our RFIs and our ideas could be taken seriously and given merits and serious thought, with everybody knowing that our goal really is to make sure that this gets done. From the beginning, our main focus was to make sure that we can fit the reconstruction of this project into the weekend. And the challenge was, as contractors, we know that a lot of the things that can go wrong will probably go wrong, and there needs to be a lot of buffers in place. So our goal was to see if we could reduce our plan time of performance to about 80% of the weekend and have about a 20% buffer. And as we started sort of constructing the PCUs and really thinking about the schedule of the weekend, there was a lot of back and forth with ideas, which didn't initially go through, formal channels. It was getting on calls and sort of having conversations and sending emails to pin down what is acceptable to everyone, and then formalizing that through the proper contractual channels, right? Like this resequencing that was needed, or the modification of the mixes and things like that. And so we were very fortunate to have WSP on this project as well. This was by far one of the best thought out and well designed projects that we've taken on in recent years, especially in light of its complexity.
You brought up a good point, because this goes back to that idea of trusted advisor, the engineer being a trusted advisor for the client, and working in that collaborative framework. And this is a perfect case in point on why it's so important to have a good team that communicates, a good team that works together well. Because in a situation like this where you're replacing a structure, and really the corridor where it's located is kind of a choke point for Arlington, Virginia, and Falls Church, Virginia, and a lot of people rely on Route 50 to get really to DC for work. It's a major commuting route, and it's just a major commerce route. So you have the pressure of time, you have the pressure of a very impatient, let's say, at sometimes population that wants to get from point A to point B. You have a lot of stakeholders engaged, and you have, of course, the end client. And it kind of goes to show why it's so important for the relationship for all of the parties to work well together. So I'd like to get a little bit more perspective on, how the team gelled and came together. And it's really open to anyone who wants to take it.
Well, as the owner, let me start. Again, it's having a comfort level with your design team from our, right in the beginning. The contractor doesn't come into play until after the design is, advertised. And so really it's the relationship between the owner and the designer. And we have an absolutely excellent relationship, working relationship. So we knew that as we would think of things or question things, they weren't going to have a problem with it. So along the way, when we thought that we needed to maybe make sure that the pieces could actually be lifted and put in place, we kind of were able to say to WSP, show us that it works. And they were able to say, yes, we can do that, and go back and do the exercise to prove that this can be done. And so I think as we thought through all the pieces, it was an easy thing to do in terms of the checks and balances that we have as an owner, checking the design and questioning things and making our suggestions. So it's a back and forth, a give and take. And then when we reach the point where we have to tell the community, we do that together. So when we meet with the elected officials, we go out and meet with them together, and we do a presentation. And again, that's prepared by WSP, and they really lead the effort. We just jump in as we need to. So we tell the elected officials what we're going to do, but we let the technical side of it come from our consultants. So it works real well. Again, it's having a comfort level to be able to do that. And I think we certainly have that with WSP.
Well said. Kelly, is there anything that you want to add?
I was going to say, one of the things that we did too that I think was maybe a little bit innovative, we thought about how the contractor might want to build it. And so we actually identified a location for them to do the fabrication. Yeah. And we contacted the owner and said, would it be possible for the contractor to use your site? And the answer was yes, we'll certainly entertain that. And we'd be willing to talk to the contractor. So in this particular case, then we said to WSP, we want you to list that site and the owner's contact information in the plans. We're going to leave it to the contractor to work out the details, but we think it's a good location. And we also had to make sure that we could get the pieces from that site to the bridge where we wanted to build. And it actually worked out very, very well. But again, we took some initiative there as an owner to reach out to the local landowners. And I think, again, it's a little bit unique for them.
And Pooya, how far was the prefabrication site from the final construction site?
I think it's about 0.4 miles, if I'm not mistaken. And I can expand on some challenges that we had with that here a bit. One of the things that's unique about the structure is that it's not unique about it. I guess every structure is like this, but one of the things that made it more difficult for us was that this bridge has a slope in both directions. And we needed to basically cast these PCUs to exactly the line and grade that they were going to be installed on the structure in their final resting place. And once we did that, we also had to think about, okay, as we pick these up, we're not going to be able to pick them up level, and we're not going to be able to transport them level, right? We basically need to come up with a system to lift these in their specific line and grade configuration, transport them in that, and then lift them again and set them, which was actually one of the hard engineering challenges, the construction side of this project, and we achieved that with setting up, fabricating these custom lifting brackets that we installed on the PCUs, and then using some turnbuckles and different length slings, very precise length slings, at the four corners of each of the structures, each of the PCUs, to be able to get them into place.
Yeah, now that's really interesting. Now, Kelly, from your side of the world at WSP, seeing the design leap from the page to a prefabrication site must have been something else. How did that work out from your perspective as the designer? How did it work from project management, making sure that all the pieces did work and were prepared correctly to get to the installation phase? And, how was that managed?
All right, well, we had a shop assembly requirement on our design plans. So we pretty much wanted to make sure that everything could be built ahead of time, kind of like a dry run, exactly like it would be at that final bridge location. So I guess in this, it was actually an unused parking lot, but the contractor laid everything out exactly like it would be at that final spot. So that's your longitudinal grade, cross slopes, your skew angles. Even the bearing pedestals, they all had to be offset relative to each other, just like they would be at that final location. So basically, we went down to the site, saw everything laid out, and it was just amazing, just thing to watch this whole thing come to life.
Yeah.
That you designed the paper. But one other thing to mention, and then Pooya mentioned, I guess how these segments are all going to be lifted. Now, that's something, because this is an ABC project, it's something that, it gets done during shop drawing phase. Now, his whole setup to lift these, he basically had these temporary support beams directly underneath our segments, which really set up a new load path compared to what they were initially designed for. So during shop drawing phase, everything really had to be checked to make sure that they were still within the allowable compressive stresses. And luckily, everything, turned out to be very adequate, but we were able to proceed with that method. So it worked out really well.
Yeah, it's another why teamwork is so important. Now, is there anything else about the project that we haven't touched upon that you want to make sure the audience understands? I mean, this is a project that is getting an honor award at this year's Engineering Excellence Awards for its design excellence, for its just the value that this provides to the community. Anything else that you want to make sure the audience knows?
Well, I mean, the project itself obviously was very successful. I'd like to mention that it was the first of its kind in Northern Virginia, first ABC superstructure replacement. They used PCU segments, so that was pretty novel. But it worked very well, and the team worked very well during the project. And then even afterwards, I think it's also important to share just these engineering feats with the engineering community. So we really teamed up together again, and we worked together, presented to this project in various locations regionally, and also at the International Bridge Conference. I actually just presented it last month. But it worked very, very well, and everyone really, we actually also read an article about this project. It's in ASCE Civil Engineering Magazine. That was in this summer's July-August issue. So Pooya has been, incredibly great to work with, just the whole part itself.
And not only was this the first of its kind in Northern Virginia, I understand that the reception to the completed project was also impressive. And I want to get an idea from Gary. I mean, when you're doing something like this and it's an infrastructure project, you don't always get a lot of popular feedback. But that wasn't the case in this circumstance. Tell us a little bit about how the project was received by the community.
We received dozens of compliments and thank yous from the community and the elected officials. And, again, it went extremely well. We had 0 complaints.
Yeah.
That's rare. It's very rare. And again, it's because the team worked together so well, and the outreach was excellent ahead of time. I did want to talk about one thing that we didn't mention is risks.
Yeah.
The risk, there's always risk when you do things like this. There's risk that the design doesn't come together. There's risk in terms of building it. We actually only had, because of community not projects, but activities, 3 weekends that we could do this project. And if we missed one of those 3 weekends, had to slide for an entire year. And one of the risks was that we would have bad weather. And, the contractor, Pooya took a little bit of a risk on the first weekend. He said, I'm not going to wait. I'm going to get this thing done. There was some threats of rain. There was some light drizzle, but not enough to stop the project. And he was willing to take that risk, though, on that first weekend to say, we're moving, we're going to get it done. So again, I think that we all assessed the risks as we went along and did a good job with determining how to weigh those risks and make good decisions.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll add one thing to that. I think the response from the community, one thing about that is that regardless of what you do for life, right, whether you're a bridge engineer, designer, contractor, owner, or anybody else in the community, there is something that's just cool about replacing a bridge in a weekend.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's just neat. It sounds grand, right? And I think people acknowledge that, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's much easier to complain about a project that you've seen and you've sort of sat in traffic for and so on for a year. And then you go home. On your way home, you see this old bridge there, and then you come back on Monday morning, and it's a new bridge. And there is a cool factor to that. I think it just can't be ignored. It was certainly a factor when we were considering bidding this job, right? It did, as Gary said, it did carry a lot of risk, but it was also really, really cool, and less than a mile from our office, and we just weren't gonna miss it.
I mean, it does show. This is a perfect example of innovative design, sound construction practices, and good relationships and communications with stakeholders, both the public and the lawmakers who represent the area where the project is being built. What that can mean. And this is an example of infrastructure being done the right way. So many times people complain about infrastructure. Where actually people only complain about infrastructure if, they have a bumpy road or they can't get from A to B. It's rare that you get compliments that people notice and take advantage of telling people that you have good infrastructure. But this is the kind of thing that, especially in the time frame that this was done, it kind of is a testament to teamwork and how important it is to have all of those pieces of the puzzle in place to get a project done. And, it shows the value of infrastructure, and it shows the value of engineering and a good team.
Right.
Yes, I would consider it something like extreme engineering, this day and age.
Yeah. It's truly a great story, and it's a great project, and it's worthy of recognition at the awards program. And again, you will be able to see this project, the ABC Weekend Superstructure Replacement, and many others showcased at the first ever virtual Engineering Excellence Awards, which is going to take place on December 1st at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the live online broadcast.
Yeah, before we wrap this up, I just want to send a shout out and a thank you to all of my fellow Martin's employees that were involved in getting this done. We had some 57 folks that actually built this bridge. And this wasn't mentioned as part of this podcast, but we actually spent 6 to 8 hours behind schedule for a good portion of that weekend at the beginning. And so, a lot of these folks had the sacrifices were really made there, right? Because this 50 or so people ended up working basically around the clock from Friday night until Monday morning when this was open various times. And I think they really deserve a recognition and thank you that might otherwise get missed as us project managers and engineers and owners and so forth sort of talk about these things.
No, absolutely. We need to recognize the people who are out there day and night in all kinds of weather, who are pulling the hours to actually get these projects completed, and they deserve all of our recognition for the work that they do in actually realizing the designs that our member firms are putting together, and the oversight that our construction partners and owners are providing for the projects. And it's another good example and a testament to the importance of teamwork. And whenever you're driving down the road and you see a crew, think that they're delivering something for America, which is critically important. That's good infrastructure that allows our economy to thrive. It allows us to keep connected to one another, and they deserve our recognition for that work. So again, once more, December 1st, 3 p.m., the first ever digital broadcast of the Engineering Excellence Awards Gala. We invite you to be there. Help us honor great engineering design. Help us honor our fellow member firms. It's going to be a great show, and really looking forward to it. It's going to be exciting. So again, thank you so much, everyone, for the show today and showcasing this project. Congratulations to you all on the honor award. And until next time, this has been Engineering Influence from ACEC. Stay safe, everyone.